waste an hour. Teach a man to beer, and he will brew for a lifetime. That was a quote by Mike Bennett. He was a man that truly understood the love and the passion of beer, and throughout the speech I hope I give you a little insight towards how you can enhance the love and the passion if you have beer yourself. How many people actually like beer in here?
Yeah.
Of course, almost everyone. Beer is a long pastime. It's not only an American pastime, but it's a world pastime. You can find it from anywhere, from a baseball game, to NASCAR, to basketball, to your own backyard when you barbecue. There's probably a beer at every occasion. So, I'm going to tell you a little bit in this speech about where beer originated, the ingredients you're going to need to brew your own, how to brew your own, and then just give you a little bit of insight to increase your passion. You probably ask yourself, though, why am I qualified to even give this speech to you? Well, I did some research. I love the passion of beer myself, and I have the only curiosity. I want to try brewing beer myself one day. So, the first brewers were the Sumerians, and they first discovered fermentation. Fermentation is the last step in brewing beer, and I'll explain more in depth later on in the speech about this. But that was what the Sumerians were known for. And then the Sumerians were later taken over by the Babylonians, and then the recipes of beer just spread across the world. To Germany, France, Japan, everyone had a recipe for beer. They added their own technology to beer. They added their own recipes to make beer what it is today. And the Sumerians originated their first beer make around 6,000 years ago. It actually happened by accident. Some are to say that a piece of dough fell into a vat of water, and no one noticed it for a while, and it fermented from the yeast, and they had their first beer. Of course, it wouldn't taste anything like your beer today, but that was the first known findings of beer. And then next in the history of beer is the next big slam is the Prohibition. The Prohibition was the outlaw of anything alcoholic. That would include beer. It started in January 16th, 1919. And it ended with the signing of the 21st Amendment in 1933. Now, after a little bit of history, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ingredients you want to take into it. The first is you're going to need malted barley, you're going to need hops, and you're going to need yeast. Now, malted barley is a grain. It comes from the same family as wheat. Then hops is actually a cousin of marijuana. The scientific name for hops is Cannabisea, and its cousin, marijuana, is cannabis. And then yeast is a single-celled microorganism that is the bacteria that breaks down beer, the hops, and the barley in the fermentation process. And the first way we begin is we begin with the mash. Now the mash is where you would take the malted barley, put it in a machine. If you're making beer at this level, as a brewery, or if you're doing it yourself, you're going to have a much smaller machine, but it's still much similar. And what this machine does is it breaks down the hulls of the malted barley so that you can go to the next stage, which is to soak your malted barley in water so that it can go to a germinating stage where it begins to sprout. And that's whenever your malted barley is ready to be thrown into the process of making beer. The next process is going to be the wort. After your malted barley has reached the point of germination, you're going to mix hops and your malted barley together into the wort. Now what the wort is it's a vat that boils the hops and the malted barley together at 160 degrees. And so that's going to get all of the juices, the ingredients inside the hops and the malted barley out, and it's going to get it right in, ready for the next process. Which is the next process is separating the solids from the liquid. Now, in this machine, what it does is it gradually takes hot water from the boiling stage, and it will slowly transform it or trade it out with cold water. And so that's one key part of making beer is that you don't want to drastically change the temperature when you're going from your boiling point to separating solids and liquids. You're going to put your cold water into the vat with your solids, and then that's when you mix your yeast. And that's when you're going to go to the fermentation. That's whenever you leave your beer, your malted barley, your hops, and your yeast in the vat. And depending on which type of beer you want to make, if you're going to make an ale, you're going to want to leave it in the fermentation stage for 2 weeks at 68 degrees. If you're going to make a lager, you want to leave it in your vat at 48 degrees for 4 weeks. The difference is that your hops have different time to change with the temperature, so it gives you a different flavor. Now, as I just told you, there's a difference in the time period of how to make beer. Now, the 2 weeks process, that's called top fermenting. And that's where you get your ales and your stouts and your wheat beers. And the next process is bottom fermenting. That's where you get your Oktoberfest, your Pilsners, your lagers. And there is one more kind, but it is only practiced in one part of the world. It's practiced in Belgium, in a valley in Belgium, and that's called spontaneous fermentation. And what they do is, remember earlier when I told you you want to take and slowly move your hot water and your cold water in the process, what they do is when they are changing out their water from hot to cold, they throw it drastically into cold water, and they throw wild yeast that they would pick directly out of the valley, just like they go pick flowers. And this wild yeast makes these lambics, their gaza, and these faro beers very sour, bitter. It would be nothing like an American beer. But if you love beer and you want to try it sometime, and you're in Germany, by all means go and try some spontaneous fermentation. Now I've told you a little bit about the history of beer. I've told you a little bit about the ingredients you need. I've told you about what different types of beer you can have. And now I'm going to open it up to any questions about beer. Yes, sir.
What's the oldest brewery?
The oldest brewery is actually in Pottsville, PA. It's the Yingling Brewery. It's still a family-owned brewery. It's not publicly traded. It's still family-owned and operated. Yes, sir.
You said you haven't tried this process yet?
No, I haven't.
Going to?
But I want to, yes.
Okay.
Any more questions?
How many recipes did the original brewers have, like the ancient brewers?
The original brewers, the first brewers, the Sumerians, only had one. And then when they were taken over by the Babylonians at the fall of Mesopotamia, they had 20 recorded recipes of beer. And now that I've explained all the differences in beer, I hope that maybe you found a little bit of love for beer yourself. You want to go out, you want to maybe try brewing on your own, take what you've learned, and brew responsibly. Thank you.